Hello and good day, everybody. Jeremiah here from Undergun Productions, coming at you guys with another segment of Into the Box. So someone recently took notice to how I've been using all these different compressors within my mixes to achieve saturation, distortion, and analog emulation, almost using them more as a tool for coloration than I'm using them actually as compressors. So they asked me, hey, have I ever tried the Empirical Labs Arouser? And I'm like, no, I've never even heard of it, but I've definitely heard of Empirical Labs because I know they're the company behind the classic compressor, the Distressor. So I go over to the Empirical Labs website, and sure enough, on the front page, here is the Arouser. And the Arouser is their plug-in version of their classic Distressor, except it's got all these extra bells and whistles. So I'm reading through the specs, and right away, I'm getting aroused, even before I've even tried this thing. Because I'm like, oh yeah, bring it on, baby. So I see they got their 14-day trial run. You can take it for a spin. So right away, I download her, get her all set up, and instantly fall in love with this thing. It exudes my three favorite characteristics I look for in every plugin, and that is distortion, saturation, and analog emulation. And it gives you full control to really manipulate the way you want to utilize all three of those elements within your track, on your track, in your mix. So sticking to this month's theme of compression, compressors, and using compression creatively within your mix, let's dive into the box and have a look at this beast. All right, so here we are. We're in the box. I got this track pulled up right now. It's a track called Far Hollow from one of my favorite clients who was nice enough to let me use it for this demonstration video here today. This is a hard rock 80s kind of vibe track that goes back to the old school metal roots, but with a little bit of modern injection. And I'm just digging it, loving every minute of mixing this track. I've got to mix several tracks for this guy, and he's got this singer on here. He uses a session singer from down in Venezuela, this guy called Tobias Argatas, if I'm pronouncing his name right. And this singer is just over the top, bringing back that Dio kind of vibe with the big screams and yells and nice melodies. And so over this track here, I got the Arouser dropped on several elements of everything, and it's kind of really helped shaping the overall sound. So I got it on the drums, some drum subs, some snares, the bass, the guitars, vocals, some parallel sends set up with it, and we're just going to walk through and break down each element as best as I can without taking too long here. So let's just start by having a quick look at the Arouser and give it a quick overall top to bottom here and look at every feature. So you can see that we got the 4, the in, the attack, the release, and the out, exactly like the original Distressor, set up like that way. And then we got the ratio, which is very similar to the original Distressor. And then we got some extra features, some attack modification. They've taken the soft clipping harmonic distortion setup to a whole new level here. And they've also given us some extra side chaining and high pass filter features that we can really dial in and set up accordingly in our blend. So we got our in up top here, 0 to 10, that's our input. There is no threshold on the Distressor or the Arouser, so the harder you push into it, the more the Arouser is going to respond. So next we got our attack and release, 0 being our fastest, 10 being the slowest. And I'm digging these nice big knobs using the Raven here. This is great because I can get a hands-on approach without having to fight around trying to pinpoint smaller knobs. So I'm digging that right away for sure. Next, our release, again, 0 being the fastest, 10 the slowest. And then we have our output where we can make up for any gain lost by compression and really jack things up or back things off if we want. Now we got our ratios here. We got a 1 to 1, a 1.5 to 1, a 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, 6 to 1, 8 to 1, 10 to 1, 20 to 1, and rivet, which is emulating the old nuke it. So you really want to just smash it, you hit that button right there. But I'm just going to go back to a good starting point. So the cool thing about all these ratios is as you go up, it's been designed to kind of give you slightly different tonalities and coloration with each ratio. So it's not just like this transparent thing you're not noticing. So as you're going up, sure, you're getting that ratio added to your compression, but you're also getting some different tonalities that you can really play with and utilize. And when you really push in hard, then those colorations really come out and you can notice each one there. So when I'm doing some examples, we'll crank up on that output level there to really push into her hard. So next we got our attack modification, and what this is doing is helping shape the attack. So even if you have a fast attack time set, you can kind of use this to help shape it so it's not grabbing as quick and it slowly grabs on. So you can kind of see how this is here. If you were to smash your wave file, it kind of exactly looks just like that. So I'll show you a picture of someone who's taken a wave file and they've created that picture to show you. Really got to use your ear when you're playing around with it, but it's a great way to help shape that initial attack. Next, we got my favorite element of all, the soft clipping, the saturation, adding our harmonic distortion, and this thing is just amazing. You can bring her back here so you're not adding any extra harmonic distortion, or you can give her in the middle, or you can just crank it so you're redlining. You can see here we got warm, hot, toasty, and pinned, and the harder you crank this, the more it's going to push into here, and the harder you drive in, the more it's also going to drive this. And also on the screen now, I'm going to put a picture to show you what this is doing behind the scenes by adding extra harmonic points and boosting them in the frequency spectrum as it goes up. So the higher you go, the farther it's pushing harmonic distortion higher up into the frequency range, so you're getting a little bit more high-end distortion cut through, and it really helps crunch things up and help things cut through the mix. I'm just digging that, and I can't wait to show you this in use there. So next, we got our high-pass filter here, and this thing's also amazing. It goes all the way from 0 hertz up to 1K, and I don't think I've ever seen such a large sweep on a compressor for our high pass. And so what that high pass is doing, wherever we set it, anything below that point is not being affected by the compressor, so it's letting it breathe through without being compressed. Next here we got our detector sidechain EQ that's set up with a parametric EQ, which is also another cool feature. So for example, say there's some harshness in your guitar around 5K and it's kind of annoying you, you can come over here, set this to 5K, give it a boost, and now it's going to push that 5K up harder, but the compressor is going to respond to it harder as well, so it's actually going to push it down and tame that frequency you pinpointed in your mix even more. And then over here, you can make that a wide band, really open it up with a big bell, or if you want to be really precise and just target just that frequency area, you can make a nice narrow point and bring it right up, or vice versa, actually pull it back and get the opposite effect, which I thought was really cool. And as we're going through some tracks, I'll show you some great ways to utilize that and put it to use on different elements in your mix. And next we got our blend here, which is great because I love smashing things and I can just pull that blend back and treat it as a parallel, right? And then as an extra here, they got this expert panel, they call it. And over here, now you even got more control over your dry level. So you can pull that back or boost it up and get a little bit more output gain, which is a great way of controlling your input level to match it with your output level and just really dial in that blend until you're completely happy with the two, if that's the way you want to go. So I'm going to crank that back up to 0. Going to set this back up, and we're going to put this into action. So right now, I'm going to put on my kicks here. I got 3 kick drums, and I have the Arouser set up on my group. So I grouped all my kicks into one group, and then I sent that to my drum group. But before it goes there, it goes through the Arouser here. So I'm going to hit play here. Actually, I'm just going to hit play without, so you can actually get a little peek at the song here. Give you a little teaser. Some 80s hard rock metal. Nightmares are peering the east. Dark figures are in the shroud. So you're so good to get a look. So like I was saying, the Arouser has been spread across this whole mix on several elements and really helped shape the sound. So let's just pull up the Arouser here on our kick sub group and let's play around here. So right now, I forgot I left the saturation up when I was cranking it there. I don't really like getting too much saturation on a kick drum, especially on a group bus. So just lighten up that warm. Let's push into it a little harder so we can hear what we're doing. It's bypasser. So I'm losing a bit of volume, so that's where here I can crank this up here. Make sure I left my dry wax actually turned up a bit. Back that off. And now let's play with this attack modification. So that's off. That's just the way it's going to be over here. So I can go for a faster attack. So it's like it's letting a lot more through when I crank that up. So I'm just going to turn that off for now. Let's roll off now on the high pass and let some of that low end through without being compressed. See here how as I went up there, everything under 1K now is going through being uncompressed. So I'm going to back it off and just let that low end. And now that snap is kind of annoying me, so let's kind of try to see if we can target that snap. So I'm around 4.5K there. Now we're going to push up there, causing the compressor to grab it more. I'm going to make that a little bit even wider. And now I'm going to back off. I like kind of working, pushing into things just so I can really hear how everything's responding, and then kind of back off to find that sweet spot so we're not completely thrashing things. So let's hear that within the mix. Bring that up a bit, turn our output up a bit. And now I hit bypass. So you can kind of hear, I kind of choked the kick out a little bit, but it makes it more snappy and actually helps it cut through the mix a bit better. And I'm just going to turn that back on one more time. Just going to go for a little bit of the blending. Just to let a little bit of that raw, uncompressed kick through also. So now let's move on. We're going down here. Let's go down to the guitars, because when I dropped this on the guitars for the first time, I was just blown away by what it does for heavy guitars. So I'm just going to solo one guitar right now and give you a quick look and demonstration of what I'm talking about. So for fun, I'm just going to slam into her. And now let's crank up and just hear how you can destroy it, right? But we don't want to destroy it, just demonstrating. And over here, I've got 5K, 5.5K there, and I'm pushing in just to kind of tame that little bit of that harshness you can get in your guitars around that spot. So let's so I can pull that back, and now it's not hitting that frequency at all. I push up, back up there, and I find it just kind of really tightens that up. And if I make that wider, I'm kind of losing a little bit of the sizzle I like above and below that frequency, so you can just kind of really dial that in and find that sweet spot. We'll let some of the low through. But I find by compressing the low end of the guitar, you do get a tighter, more fat guitar signal, and it helps clean up some of that mud too. So I'm going to turn on the other guitar. Basically, I had this Arouser on the other channel dialed in very similar, so they kind of matched each other, even though I just messed up the settings on this one by cranking that up. So I'll back that back off. So now I'm coming down to the guitar group where I got my left and right guitar sent, and I've got another Arouser, and here I'm really just bringing the juice and crunching things up. So let's have a listen to this one. Yeah, you can see I got rivet on, man. We are nuking this. But you can see I have the parallel on down here, so I'm just blending that in accordingly, right? So all the way to dry. And blend in that extra guitar there. With it off. So you can hear when I'm cranking up that attack modification, the more I give it, the more it opens up, right? And that's kind of slowing down that whole attack. So you can also see here, I've let everything under 70 through because I've already compressed them up here all the way, the whole range on those two, right? So that way I can just let a little bit rather than doubling up on that. And I found that kind of opened things up. So I dug that in. So let's just hear this within context of the mix here. So you can hear how it's really just shaping that electric guitar tone and bringing it to life. I'm getting a little bit of gain out of there too. So there's a volume thing there happening, but there's also a lot of harmonic distortion that's really just crunching up and helping that guitar sizzle in the mix. So while we're here, usually I always have the CLA 3A on my guitar sub here. And this is not, this plugin's better than that plugin. I'm not like that. I think all plugins are equal. They all have their own value within a mix. And so someone tries to knock another plugin, say this plugin's better than that plugin and that plugin's better than this plugin. There is no logic to that way of thinking. They all have a purpose. They all have a way you can utilize them in your mix on whatever instrument. They all have their own tonality and their own color. But while we're here and I have it, let's just do a quick A and B here and we'll check this out. So here's with the CLA 3A. Turn that off, we'll turn the Arouser on. So you can see how I'm getting a very similar result out of both, and they're very closely matched. The only thing I'm getting extra out of the Arouser is I am getting all that harmonic distortion, and that's something the CLA 3A doesn't really provide. And that's where the Arouser, when it came to the guitars, I thought really shined. It's just bringing some heat that I am digging. And I can't wait to really dive in and use this on some metal tracks where it's extreme and I can just really push that and pin that red light on there. And up here, you see, we got this bad light, and I've been trying to get that light to trigger, and for whatever reason, I just can't. I've had it slammed, so it's so slammed and distorted that you wouldn't be able to use it on a parallel send, but so I don't know. I'll let you know when I do finally hit that bad light and I get it to shine for me here. But that's good. That just shows that we can push this plug-in to a whole new extreme level. So let's keep moving on here. Let's go down to some vocals here. So what I do with my vocal channel is I take my main vocal. I got my main vocal actually printed with all my processing on it, but I duplicated the raw of that same take, and I'm kind of treating it as a parallel here. You can see I call it my vocal stunt double, and I really slam and compress and almost decimate that other vocal to tuck behind the main vocal as thickener. So let's just loop this little area here, and I'll give you a demonstration.
And when the bell leaps away, you gasp in shock at what you see.
So there's without the stunt double, and there's a stunt double added in.
Her face, sound absentee. Nothing
so now we're just going to push this stunt double up a bit.
You. Horror stories could not even scare you when compared to this thing that's before you. And an emptiness that will implore you.
Okay, so now we'll just listen to that stunt double by itself, and I can show you how I've done it.
When the bell leaps away, you gasp in shock at what you see. A woman that close anyway, but her face is an absentee. Nothing in the movies could prepare you. Horror stories could not even scare you when compared to this thing that's before you, and an emptiness that will implore you.
So you can hear I just decimated all the dynamics basically. If you were to look at that, if I were to print it, it'd just be flatlined. Basically a solid bar. So I try to leave a little bit there. We don't want to overkill it, even though I am tucking it behind as thickener, but you can get really brutal with it. And you can see here, down here, I got the harmonic saturation just cranked. I'm even going to push into it a little bit harder over here. And over here, Actually, I'm just going to turn it back on so you can hear this, because this is another great way of using your detector sidechain parametric EQ.
When the veil leaves
So I'm targeting a little over
got
5K,
me
and this is
at
almost
what
treating
you
it like a
see.
de-esser. So listen to
woman
this.
that close anyway, but her face is an absentee. Nothing in the movies could prepare you.
Back up.
Horror stories could not even scare you.
So you see that just had exactly the same results as using a de-esser, except slightly different, because now you're actually compressing them rather than pulling them back. I know some de-essers work very similar, but that's great to have the ability to get some de-essing going on while you're compressing all in one plugin is great. And again, you can do the old roll off, let some of that low end through uncompressed, or if you have some other harsh frequencies that might be bugging you, you can pinpoint them, target them out, go for the wide, go for the narrow precision. Just play around with that and really use it to your advantage, because I could see using that on every track that I'm applying compression to kind of get things sitting where I want them. So again, let's just hear this in context with the mix, with and without. So it's very subtle, but it's there. It just added a little bit of extra weight and a little bit of extra presence to those lead vocals. So now this next trick that I used, putting parallel compression onto my vocal chain itself. So all my group vocals, I also send to a parallel vocal compression sub, which is down below here. We're going to roll down to this Vox PC. Here we are right here, where I have another Arouser set up and am slamming it, nuking it. Saturation just cranked. Again, doing a little bit of de-essing action here just to keep things smooth to the ears. And yeah, everything else is fairly standard setting. So let's hit play. Parallel vocal compression removed. Let's slowly bring it up. So I love doing that. I take a vocal, I just smash it, and I pull it up behind the main vocal until it's just sitting right. You don't want it to overpower your main vocal, and you just kind of want it to sit behind it and bring that thickness, bring that life. And another great trick too is, say you're looking for a spot within your track and the vocals just maybe need a little extra oomph here and there. It could be in your choruses, it could be any spot. You could automate that parallel compressed vocal to kind of come up a little bit extra in those spots, and that'll really help add some dynamics and life to your mix. So while we're on the topic of parallel compression here, I've also done the same thing with my drum sub. So all the drums are coming over here again to another Arouser setup. And I'm not nuking this because I wanted to keep some of the dynamics in play, but I'm going to do the same thing. We'll put the track on and you can hear with, and then I'll slowly bring them up. So here is with the parallel drum compression completely turned down. And I'll slowly bring it up. You got me shocked at what you see. A woman that close anyway, but her face sound absentee. Nothing in the movies could prepare you. Horror stories could not even scare you. So just like the vocals there, I'm smashing them, but I'm tucking them in behind and bringing them up just for that extra weight, extra life, extra character, right? And I do this also, I send the entire mix, other than the drums, because the drums already have their own parallel compression sub there, to what I call my mix parallel compression. And on this one here, I have Pewchild 670 there, Jack Joseph Puke set up with waves there, emulation of the old Fairchild. I send the entire mix to this here, and then this one here, you can see I got it pulled back. If you pull that up too much, your mix is going to get muddy real quick. But just for fun, let's...
When the bell leaps away, you gasping shock at what you see. A woman that close.
If done right, you can add a lot of weight to your mix, and that's a trick I learned from Andrew Ships there. He does that on all his tracks. He tucks it behind there and just kind of brings it up and just helps bring so much weight and thickness and warmth to your mix. And that's why I really like using this compressor on that element, because it's got a real nice analog emulation, and the warmth it has is just undeniable. And another thing I like to do before these is a little bit EQing. I'll roll off some of that real low end and emphasize some of those frequencies I need a bit more of that in my mix. So sometimes you can just add a little bit to your parallel thing and boost whatever you need boosted, right? So this whole parallel compression thing is kind of the way I'm getting all this extra thick warmth and saturation tucked into my mix without destroying the actual dynamics of all the individual tracks. So it's a very cool trick. I suggest you all play around with that little bit of extra parallel compression. And even on the guitar track, you see how I had that Arouser on the guitar sub, and then we parallel compress that. So it's technically I was doing something very similar, but just doing it on the track itself using the blend knob to achieve the desired effect I wanted there. And that way you're not going to over compress your mix, and you're going to keep all the dynamics intact, but you're going to have just that thick, solid foundation under everything that's really going to make your mix stand the test, going to make it pump through those speakers so you're actually feeling it hit you in the chest. And yeah, so that's what it's all about, man. All right, so there you guys go. The Arouser in action, in the box, applied to several different elements within the mix, both on the track and in parallel. Didn't matter which way I cranked it, up, down, sideways, backwards. I was getting great results. Very musical plug-in, very analog sounding, added such a richness to everything I put it on. And I can't speak enough about that saturation knob and adding that harmonic distortion, especially to the guitars, man. That's the highlight of this mix here. And the last few mixes I did, same results. Every time I put it on a guitar, I'm just like, oh man, there's the guitar sound I've been after for so long. So if you guys got aroused by the Arouser, I would suggest just go check out Empirical Labs, man. You could take this bad boy for a test run, 14 days free, no strings attached. If you dig it, they got a great payment plan where you can lease it for $5 a month or $50 a year. And you think about that. That's the price of a beer. I go drink that beer and piss it out in 10 minutes, right? And I put that into this mix. That outweighs that beer any day of the week, right? So that's just an option for you guys. I'm not trying to sell nothing here. I'm just sharing my excitement. As always, this is compression month, and we're talking about using compression and different compressors and using them creatively and helping elevate our mixes with them. So this was what this is all about for me today, just sharing a little bit of that passion and insight with you guys. So I hope you got something out of this. I hope you enjoyed it. I want you all to stay creative, stay passionate, keep that rock and roll alive, go stop living the dream, and just do it, man. That's what it's all about. So until next time, we'll have some more compression tips and tricks coming your way soon. Rock on, everybody. Cheers.